Welcome everybody, Chris Reeves with TRIARC Systems, and I have Jonas with me, our Director of Training, also owner of Tactical Options. And we're here at a unique shoot house, and today we are going to put 3 rifles that we put together over on the workbench that we assembled for CQB purposes and how we have them set up. And we're going to run through some practical exercises. And basically, Jonas being the expert, we want to really focus on how these rifles perform on the mobility aspect. So running through these drills, our main focus, obviously, we're not going to be teaching, how to do a drill. We're in a sense going to showcase how each 3 different barrel lengths affect mobility within the confines of the shoot house when it's hallways, doorways, and also, with a suppressor, without suppressor. And Jonas is the best person to showcase that or demonstrate it.
Yeah, so just a little bit, as Chris stated, we will not be discussing CQB, even though we will be using some CQB terms that some of you guys may be familiar with, or maybe something new to you. But that just kind of helps to discuss the point on the manipulation and mobility of the weapon system. Like I said, when I talk about certain points on how this tool helps me out based off the length. So we'll be going dry during our demonstrations and talking points here. We've already done a brass and ammo check on each other. It's the reason why we are not wearing any iPro or kit right now.
And also having empty mags in there to ensure, as far as working around, make sure the gun, showing how the magazine could get in the way or interfere if that's the case. So the mags are empty, guns are cleared. And obviously when we go through the live fire portion of it, we'll be fully kitted up. Yeah,
and so the goal is here for you guys to understand the different options out there. Just like I discussed previously, you trying to look at selecting whether, you're, law enforcement or attack team, you guys are looking for solutions, or a civilian looking for something as a defense platform. What are the options? And so with the different barrel lengths and the different suppressors that are on there, we'll be showing some things, pros and cons, but then, how to mitigate against the cons so it does become a pro as best as possible, but then seeing the manipulation when a weapon's suppressed to unsuppressed. So you guys can kind of see how it just helps us close a little bit distance on working on the clearance procedures.
Cool. Yeah. And also for those of you who already own 10.5 or 11.5, for those of you on the fence, or those who already own 8.3s or on the fence about 8.3s, this is going to be a perfect example of how these rifles are going to flow through, this enclosed or close quarter environment. So looking forward to it.
Yep.
Let's get started, dude.
Get at it.
All right.
Now let's kind of talk about looking at angles. A lot of things in CQB, it's procedural flow movement. So then on the ability to dominate the room, cover down on dead space or opposing openings or opposing threats, especially if you're operating singularly in a defense aspect, or it could be a law enforcement responding to a domestic, and you bring the proper tool to deal with that situation. But looking at the angles here, so if you look at, as I come up, how perceptions and angles are, and that's also the thing too about CQB is working angles. But the tool is going to help me out where by having a shorter barrel in closed confined quarters, not just manipulating up and around things and stuff and around my buddies or whatever the case is, but how I can get closer to the door. Because if I'm further back, my perception field of view just went from this to now narrow here. And then if I can get up a little bit closer, it kind of opens them up and allows me to be able to effectively move back and forth on the threshold. Because I want to do the majority of the work of what I can outside before I dedicate myself into that room. Because in the room, yes, this is a corner fed room. There could be some dead space in there that I can identify prior to going in, but then I have to think of the cuts because I still have to execute the principles and fundamentals when I come in and then the room. So as soon as I break the threshold, then I have initial point of domination before I class my sector. But yeah, so on the SBRs here, working the gun, when I'm coming up and moving this threshold and clearing from side to side, all right, as with the SBR, it allows me to get closer, like I said, to widen that angle out in that field of view. But then I still have to keep an accountability of the fact that not to break the plane, And it's very easy to do that. So I always have, even though I'm close up, I'll be offset just a little bit so then I don't create or generate that violation or that flaw. And because I don't want to give any indication, if there was somebody there in the cut, that if they did not hear me, now they had a visual confirmation that there's somebody there, know. And it's the same thing how we would do that in a defense mode. If somebody was in my house or something like that and I had to clear through or go to it or help my kid or my family or protect them, if I don't know where that threat is and I see something that's an indication of known likely suspected until you can confirm otherwise.
Okay.
You know? Okay, so if you kind of look how I come up here and then work this door, and I'm going to show you working the door, but look at like the angles and then also like the distance from the threshold here that I'm operating off of. And then after I show that to you, I'm going to kind of just demonstrate it and then you'll do it. Okay, so you can kind of understand the feel. And then again, keep track of where that potential or where that positive hand placement is on that support arm right here on managing your weapon system for recoil and driving purposes and such. Okay. All right, so coming up to this door. So as I come up and approach, whatever my direction is to the threshold, as soon as it opens up a little bit, doesn't matter if it's like an inch opening, my barrel's there, okay?
Gotcha.
And automatically. So you guys can kind of see, it's a little hard here with how this breaks, but I'll show you here in a second. But my barrel's here, so I see that there's nothing there. So then now my barrel's driven over and it's right here. And then my foot movement is allowing me to widen that angle out, and then I'm coming up. And then the last portion, I'll just be able to step around and then quickly be able to hit that point of domination. There's nothing there, or there's a target. We have a target there for a visual point of focus. But then if there was nothing there, then I can immediately just class my sector. If there is something there, I'm engaging it, and then I continue to class my sector, securing this room. All right, so I'll show you just kind of real quick going around the corner, the efficiency of it, and how, you know, on these kind of portions right here, you as an individual, you want to be deliberate and methodical so you can see things and process stuff, you know, and you can identify things. So you don't want to outrun your blinders where you can't see things, or you're moving so fast that you're getting overwhelmed by the circumstances, and then you forget how to properly control this, or you forget how to properly move. Okay. All right, so coming up through. All right, pretty simple right there.
Okay.
So there can be some pause and delays, but then again, it's like, what am I seeing? Like this could be a very far in-depth room, that doesn't matter. Now I'm gonna show you just without the can, how I can kind of manipulate around that. But you can see that it was pretty simple and easy.
Pretty smooth.
Right, and then if you were to come up here on the opposite side, what are you looking for? Is there exposure and stuff? So when I've worked on training on this and then discipline of the weapon system, these are things that we account for, you know, a lot right there. So I'll go ahead and take this can off. So hang on to that for me. Show you how this 8.3 just kind of clears around this this corner right here. I mean, this is a little narrow corridor. All right. See how smooth that is?
So that D3 just comes right around.
Right, and then you can kind of see the entire time I was able to effectively clear this corner fed room up to a point about right here, and then that was where that cut was. But once I analyzed and scanned everything near to far that there was no threat and there was nothing in the room, then I just immediately kind of took that step. So that kind of works as a single person, but then also too, if you have a tag team with guys in the stack, that one guy's going to be working that threshold in the same manner, and then this tool right here just kind of helps you out.
I mean, that's pretty awesome. So basically, what you did is once you noticed that yourself was coming around the corner, you can only apply so much to where you directly have to get into to break that corner. Right. And obviously with the 8.3, it was pretty fast.
Yeah, it was pretty fast, like right there. Okay. And then I mean, if it was even tighter or whatever the case was, or my suppressor, you know, if I was to have that back onto the gun, you know, I can just kind of retract a little bit back and be able to manipulate it. But this gun's light, it's well balanced. So just the manipulation of having to retract if necessary, if I needed to come back, I can still observe and see my sights. And then once I have a point to present and clear, you know, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right. And so it's not like, hey, I do that every time I go into a room. Yeah. It's just when your confined space starts getting more confined, and then it's even on SBR, it's putting a limitation on there. Having this nice gun on how it's set up just allows me to be able to do that manipulation and then get back into the proper firing position or the maneuvering position or carry configuration as I'm maneuvering through.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I want you to do, Chris, is I want you to come back here, take your 10-5, and execute the same thing. Okay. Think about when you pay attention when you demo this, okay? Watch the end of that muzzle, okay? And then watch your angle. And just think of like the simple concept. If I can see it, it can see me. So if this fucking Nick here in the door had brains and eyes, you know, if you can see it, it can see you. But the question is, how much of it can it see you? And this is where the deliberateness, like you don't have to Israeli come out and be like that, but you just take a step, clear, and then step, and you're just pieing and moving. And look at that foot movement. And so when you come out here and demo this, just make sure your left foot's going forward, because that's the way it's working, your directional guide. Because once you're here at the cut, I want to be able to step in and go, versus I take my right foot right here, I can't hit that cut. You know, so the foot movement does come in play a little bit.
I can tell automatically coming around, so I see that corner.
So
Make
then
sure you're staying off the walls, not hugging walls and stuff, okay?
So I can see where I'm
Yep.
at the back.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
So you felt that little bit of retraction, but it was a
Okay.
quick punch and drive going right back out because you were just trying to manipulate that because you got a little bit longer length on your
So
gun.
let me try it a little bit faster.
Right.
All right, cool. But I see exactly what you're saying, right? So even with the suppressor, okay, I come up,
Yeah.
you know, but even that's the whole thing. I don't want to collapse my stock fully because when I extend out, so I see the corner, and I'm having this natural inclination to cant the gun. And what is that coming from? Is that just me trying to huddle up, or?
What you're trying to do is naturally, it's a subconscious bad instinct mode that's happening.
Yeah.
So as I'm coming here, there's nothing I can see. And for some reason, I feel if I just bend it and clear the side
fuck
around
my
it,
offset up, too.
somehow you're going to be able to see more.
Yeah.
Right. But you want to keep your gun vertically in line because if these stop bullets, you know, if the construction was that, then having those cants right there would not help you out. So we want to keep the gun
Plus,
vertically
like I
in
said,
line.
my offset, like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how I naturally want to do that. Okay, cool. Let me.
Well, people do it. I mean, like having a 45 coming in, it's just being comfortable because it could be the kit that's causing that, you know, or something, or how you're positioning and cinching in. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you just got to keep
really
in
have to
mind the
know your hole.
offset.
Yeah.
Right. But then think, though, especially on the clearance of, because this is still considered like a barricade clearance procedure. So you have to think barricade. My sights go around, where's my barrel?
Okay.
You know, but if I'm in the room and there's no barricade, it doesn't really matter. You know, it's still offsets, point aim, point impacts, and accounting for that, you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let me give it a shot.
Yep. Now have that barrel here, and then you're moving. All right. There you go. Then take that deliberate step, hit that cut. There we go. And then you continue to move. All right, and then clap your sector down. Okay.
Okay.
There you go. So.
It's pretty interesting. Now, I guess let's try without the can.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead. Try it without the can, and then when you're done with that, since you're kind of getting a feel for this, and then the application of the environment, try it with the 10.5, and I'm going to give you my 8.3, and then see how now you feel as a difference on it. You know, right there. And then did it help you out moving around that confined space right there, or the manipulation itself? There we go. There you go. So you can kind of see just manipulating, maneuvering around. Just one point. We're just talking about just kind of just the threshold itself. We're not even getting into domination of the room, past the travel, or anything like that, really. But you can kind of feel the difference. Even now, you got the can off with the 10.5. You were able to close that out. Now, what I want you to do is let's swap out real quick. Just have a quick repeat.
Yeah. And so, and I can see how, obviously, you being proficient, me taking it slow. Obviously, if the more I think the more I do it,
Right.
I feel a little bit more comfortable because I'm being a little bit overly cautious because it's something new to me.
Right,
But,
and so that comes with, you know, like we talked about earlier, you start out with the tool, all right, you build it up or you evolve it over time, but then comes training. And then you have to learn how to manipulate that and then the different obstacles in place. So like clearing a threshold, that's an obstacle, okay?
Yeah.
And coming into a room and dominating a room, that's an obstacle. But then as a defensive platform, you know, if like civilians want to get this weapon system or they're looking for an SBR solution, still keep in mind that you have to learn to train with it. Don't just buy it and then think that, hey, I feel confident because I got this awesome weapon system and I know it's going to run when I need it to run.
Yeah.
But you have to know a few skill sets. You have to know a few principles. You have to know some fundamentals and stuff. And it keeps you on the path and straight and narrow. So therefore, you're not doing violations that could potentially get you hurt or killed, even in a defensive mode and your home.
And it's obviously it's a perishable skill because I said back in my old military days, like I said, I just remember, CQB, I remember doing the training so much, but here I am fast forwarding now to where, look how slow it took me because I felt like I was day one back all over again.
Right.
It's pretty interesting.
Right.
But it just goes to show, like this kind of stuff, those of you out there, practice, training is so important. Like we can't stress that enough as far as when to, when you have a tailored solution gun on what you tailor it for, as far as, guys and girls, this is a proving point right now, is that training, it's important. So, but yeah, so let's run through with A3 so I can.
Okay, give it a try and feel for it.
Okay.
Okay, there you
A
go.
little bit more comfortable, a little bit more
So
fast.
just be a little confident. Think about this. Like, don't think about so much on the weapon system because that does come with training where it becomes more subconscious that you're executing this.
but think of what you're observing and looking for as you're coming in. So you're looking for in depth, near and far, okay, obstacles, threats, you know, or people, if say you woke up in your place and you heard something, you saw somebody there, do they have a weapon or not? But then what is that you're looking for, and then where do you need to go? Okay, and then based off this corner fed room, then you know, okay, I'm working this to this point. My next point of domination is right there, and then as I know it's the next point of domination, but what am I looking for at that point of domination? You know, so you always want to be one step ahead, and then giving yourself commands and everything. And that kind of goes where the training helps you out, because on the fundamental applications, the manipulations, the marksmanship, when you're in this environment, you would want to be able to, it's a two-sided world, you know, on the CQB and the marksmanship piece, but these things on movements, manipulation of the gun, we want to be able to work that where that's subconscious. So therefore, in the conscious environment, I can apply the majority of my brain power in observing, analyzing, and having an execution mode that is efficient and correct. All right, cool. There you go. Bring it over. Awesome. And then take that step and completely move.
Shit.
Yeah, and then hit that point of domination, and then you continue your movement and collapse your sector. Okay, continue to scan and analyze.
Holy shit.
But yeah, I mean, but that thing, I mean, I love it. I mean, it's just, you know, very maneuverable, especially in these environments, and then this offers and goes into other contingencies as well that can kind of help you out, you know, concealments or whatever the case is, depending on what your, you know, again, what's your goal.
Exactly, that's your goal. All right, well, cool. So next, so now a little bit more of a challenge. We have the 11.5, obviously. So let's, take us run through the 11.5, because obviously it's going to be a little bit more challenging. This one definitely was, you know, was quicker than that.
Yeah.
But obviously training would help me out on that.
Right.
But yeah, show us out there as far as when working with the 11.5.
Okay, sounds good. All right, real quick, Chris, I'm just going to show you the 11.5 here. Okay. All right, obviously we got a little more extended barrels from the 10.5 and then the 8.3. It's kind of one of the reasons why I chose like the mini SOCOM suppressor on here. Yeah. Just to look at, okay, as my barrel length is extending, and if I want the gun suppressed, what's an option right there that can help me out in, you know, confined space or closed course. Okay, cool. All right, so you'll see the same thing happen, but just the manipulation of the gun and how it's maneuvering around these tight corners right here. Okay, right on. All right. Okay, see? So you kind of see just one of the things, I was able to come up real close. Suppressor never broke the threshold or the plane of the threshold here to give an indication. But the gun was consistently moving. I felt very confident. You know, just because of the length, I had a little more cut because I had to be back a little bit. But then just the maneuverability of stepping in and manipulating the platform, you know, I was able to clear this around and then hit that initial point of domination very quickly.
So take me if I'm wrong, but so what I noticed is that instead of you went with more speed instead of retracting the gun back further over the shoulder.
Correct. On that one. Okay. But then I can show you real quick on retracting it back over the shoulder. Okay. Again, it's a manipulation technique, and then how you are seeing things and analyzing things and how you're performing. Okay. Cool. All right. So I'll just come back right here. So you got to see me right here. Kind of hit my limit of my advance of where I can be. All right, I'm kind of retracting back to make the initial step, and then coming forward and collapsing that sector right there, okay? It's just a technique that we're just doing there.
Yeah, I think in both ways, I can see the difference between the two.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, we'll pop out that cannon, man.
Roger that. All right, Chris, I'll show you the exact same thing with 11.5 without the can, all right? Cool. Okay. Yeah. And then, you know, if I felt the need to retract, I will. If not, if I can take it and clear through it. I obviously didn't have the can on there, so I didn't feel very limited coming through here that I needed to retract at that point, but just stepping through. Okay, all right, so it's all manipulation, but gun feels great, well balanced and all. So,
awesome. Well, let's move the rest of the house.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. Remember how we set our guns up here the other day? You set up the 10.5 there and ended up putting an EOTech on with the riser. Yeah. The 8.3 and the 11.5. You know, we got a aim point with the Unity riser, you know, designed for that optic. So again, just kind of going back to basics on marksmanship and direct line of sights, you know, what does that mean as I'm looking at the target, okay, and as I analyze things as I'm moving and scanning or whatever the case is in close quarters, if I have a target or if it's potentially real world, you know, I want to, once I identify something, identify that's a threat, I need to take a shot. I got a direct line of sight that's going there, but my direct line of sight is going where my sights are going to rapidly deploy and meet that direct line of sight.
and then my focal point is going to be the concentration of where the rounds are going to be at. So where am I trying to place it depending on what I see and observe? And with that, we have to put in consideration over the fact that we have that height over bore offset from our optics being off. And so this goes back to the flat range training of knowing what that offset is, and then consistently working that and thinking that as you're moving through the house if you have to take a shot. Because this is like high percentage on target that some guys will talk about, HP or full size silhouette, but I still have to have a direct line of sight and a focal point of concentration. But if my target or my potential threat, whether it's home defense or attack teams going in, and then they got suspects that present themselves as threats, if that was behind, like say, like a couch or even a source of cover or behind a wall, limiting down, I still have to go back to those basics and think about direct line of sight, mechanical offsets, and where those rounds are getting placed at. So that just comes with practical time and training, and then the more exposure on it and the movements and stuff, you'll start being able to subconsciously, do that without even realizing it. But then the thing is even on a training run or whatever the case is, you always want to hold yourself accountable, because if we allow ourselves to just keep spreading out, how does that happen in real world? There could be a very negative second order effect if I was to potentially miss my shot, even in my own home if I had an intruder in there. Rounds going through walls, family members, friends around in the area or in the immediate area if something was to take place, so I have to control where those rounds are going to be. And
it all basically comes down to
training.
All comes down to training, guys. And one thing we recommend, obviously, I know people use different, as far as with these for home defense or duty, obviously training, they don't use that type of ammunition. So training on your holds, training, and then what do you do as far as like once you, do you confirm, or will there be a huge significant difference between the different ammunitions, between velocities and weight? Obviously, close distance, I don't think it would, but as further distance, so you recommend, obviously when you find out your hold, you finalize it with the ammo you're gonna, as far as carry on duty and...
Correct. Yeah, correct. And so that's one thing, I see as a common failure or mistake is, even with law enforcement, when doing training with them is, they're using their training round, and then their guns are actually zeroed to their training round, and it's not zeroed to their duty round. And then if they got a suppressor, then how's that going to change things as well? Was the model, is it going to impact what my zero is? Okay, at what points does that impact? Close quarters may not be so much, but it's just an accountability thing, because the repercussions can be so severe. I always want to know where my round is going and deliberately driving that. And then that way, if it's not happening, then it's on me as a fundamental flaw, and I go back and work that out.
Basically, know your holds. And so obviously now we've seen other optic risers, they're getting a little bit higher. Some people can notice a difference as far as speed and acquiring the target. And I just want to get your thoughts on it, because it's come to an evolution where it was co-witness, then lower 1/3, and now we're seeing optic mounts such as the Unity fast mounts for the risers, and other manufacturers do make a taller mount as well. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, we kind of talked about it a little bit here the other day, on the pros and cons of the riser, right? Comes up, gives you a lot more efficient eye relief on the presentation of the weapon system, because you got to keep in mind too, I may not always be at the aggressive ready, I may be at a high ready. It just depends on the situation and what's going on. And then if I'm operating as a attack team, where am I at in the stack, and what makes sense on my carry configuration at that point in time. So regardless of, once it comes up to the presentation, it is a little bit quicker to acquire sight, because as you're looking around, regardless of your carry configuration, you're still moving through and having a direct line of sight as you're observing and analyzing. And then once you see, your target or a potential threat, and then policy and law clears you by law enforcement, or law clears you to protect yourself in a defensive situation as a civilian, that riser, you'll be able to meet those sites a little bit faster. Again, just the con is just the mechanical offset. It's going to be greater, but then we just work through that, where then it's not a problem anymore. To be able to account for that.
You also go back to train and know your holds.
Exactly. But then the thing is too, is like that just goes back to on just the manipulation of the gun, how I present. Even with the riser, I need to be presenting that once it's locked up and ready to go, and then if I have to manipulate my safety to safe to fire and take a shot, that it's already meeting my direct line of sight. So there's all these like broken down sequences that's all combining into one fluid motion.
Awesome.
All right.